Octa shifted roles from being the knight, the fighter, to being the trainer. And since we're basically talking about what is the difference between training and practice, Einar, what's the difference? Just by the words. Training.
Training.
Practice. Can you practice something you haven't trained to do?
No. Training is learning the technique. Practice is implementing.
Exactly. Exactly. And the way we work that in my school and the way I train others is that training is absolutely safe to the student, to the trainee. It is absolutely safe. They are not going to have to worry about a single thing. I'm not throwing a fake. I'm not trying to kill them. I'm not trying to best them in any way. So mentally and physically, they realize that they're absolutely safe. Now, I can tell you that when I was in the backyard with these three the first time, it took them a little bit to get used to the idea that they were safe. That what I was doing was not meant to hurt them, kill them, or otherwise even contact them. But because what they had between their ears told them that it was combat, at first it was a little tough. We're standing there in a helmet and we've got sword and shield, and it still wasn't relaxing enough. Right? Because their brain was still saying, I'm looking through an ocularium. I'm fighting. Didn't take too long and everybody settled down, and then all of a sudden it was real easy. But when you do go to train, there are two roles. That's the other difference. Practice and combat are opponent versus opponent. You want a friend in combat, you should have brought your dog. All right? Practice, however, can break down into training if it's agreed upon by both people. Einar, that was a great rap shot you threw me with, and I didn't see it because my shield was up, and I'd like to know exactly how that worked. Well, I did this, I did that, and when you did this, I did that. Okay. That's fairly straightforward, but we went from practice to training. Now, to take it a bit further, for those of you that want to change your world a bit and you want to become a trainer, then you would actually take that student aside and set that up again and show them exactly how it worked. And then you would tell them when never to do it. Don't ever do it against a lefty. Don't ever do it against a polearm. Don't even think about it against a greatsword. By the way, the blow that killed you was set up by 2 prior movements on my part. Right? Because a lot of us are famous for, that was a great shot, what'd you kill me with? Oh, I did this. Oh, that's nice. So he goes out and he tries to do that to somebody and he gets his arm broke because you didn't show him the first 2 setup movements. Okay. So, training and practice. Opponent versus opponent. Very simple. We don't need to talk about that much. Except, when you go to practice and you find something to successful against 3 or 4 people, is that all you do? No? Good. If you hit the same person with the same blow 4 times, do you stop doing that? You don't stop doing that, do you? Because it feels so good. That's right. But what's the point? If you're at practice and you know that you are fighting someone of a lesser skill or a lesser ability for whatever reason, whether it's the way you two fight or you've got a physical advantage or they're just flat newer than you are, if you're there to practice, why would you fight someone at that level doing the same thing again and again and again and again, hitting them in the exact same spot again and again and again and again?
Because they're not going to get better and be a better opponent to me unless I train them to block that low.
Bingo. Number 1. Number 2, don't you think that if you can do it 3 or 4 times, you can do it 8 or 10 or 12, so you don't need to practice that anymore, do you? Not against that person. But think about it in another way. If you're actually using practice as the extension of your training, and practice is the proof of your training, right? then if you can only do that one thing, how many other things have you practiced? Right? I mean, if you fight 5 people and they're all susceptible to that one thing, well, that's great. You pretty much know that works. So stop using it. Okay? Now then, the other way to look at practice, we'll go into training here in a little bit. If practice is the proving ground of what I've trained myself to do, and I know for a fact that in my bag of tricks I've got all this 90% stuff that works really well, then I need to look at that as how the percentage works out against the entire group of people I fight. If that 90% only works against 10% of the total fighter base, okay, what are you doing? Right? Because indeed, if you keep rolling it out and it's unsuccessful, aren't you ingraining a negative? Right? But you keep rolling it out. Right? So part of that is paying attention when you're doing your practice as to what percentage success against what percentage of the population. If it's a given that we are practicing and training to beat the top 2% in our kingdom, okay? Top 2% in the room?
Oh, that'd be satellite monopolies.
And you. All right. How many of you can tell me for a fact that you are training and practicing to beat those people? Specifically. Okay. Now then, when we get to this portion of your percentages, how many of you that just raised your hand are competitors? You actually want to win crown. You actually want to get better because you have that objective. Right. How many of you that didn't raise your hand, are just in the SCA fighting for fun? Okay. Nobody raised their hand.
There.
Oh, did you? Okay. 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 And there's no problem with that. The bad part about the SCA over the years has been that the person that's just out every odd Sunday to fight with her friends and the absolute competitor who is not going to break the rule have been the ones that have been the most ostracized. One's not serious enough, and the other one's way too serious and it's not fun. Well, it's not fun for you, but it's fun for them. Right? Because they are out there and they are doing everything they can. They're paying attention to their nutrition, their hydration, their exercise, their stretching, their pel work. They're doing all this stuff. They go to practice 3 times a week and they fight 4 different weapons forms. And it's like, whoa, that's serious. Right? But that's what they want to do. And there's nothing wrong with being a person that wants to come out every odd Sunday and have a good time. However, if you are the competitor, you need to start matching your success ratios with specific things you're doing against the population base, especially that top 2%. Okay? You getting that?
Yeah.
Okay. What never works against Octa when you try it?
Offsides are fairly unsuccessful.
Okay.
Against Octa.
Right, against Octa. And his grace?
Everything?
Unfortunately, it's what I do best. So if I'm fighting his grace, I need to I actually have to fight my B game. Because he's better at my A game.
Okay.
I tried it.
But when you were doing that, though, you were considering your percentages and your successes against that top 2% fighter.
Yeah.
That's good. This is great. This is the way you start learning about, so I can't roll the A game every time. A game's not successful against everybody. That's true. That goes back to our percentages. Right? Sounds odd, doesn't it? He had to bring his game down to have more success against his grace. And you're like, how does that work? You know, it's like, how does that work? Okay? But it's the realization that it's happening that's the important part. Okay? Octa, what doesn't work against Thorn?
Impatience.
Exactly. Getting into the mental part now. Okay? Training practice right now, you've got your legs crossed, you're sitting there listening to me. It's a physical and mental activity. Everything you do, okay, is a coordination of mental and physical. So, now we're going to take it back down to training. Training is that in which there are two people always. There's a trainer and a trainee. It's agreed upon by the two individuals involved. Whether you ask somebody how you threw that shot, how do you block this blow, how do you get, how do you kill Thorin, right? Right? So everybody gets a lot of exercise going. Okay. But if there's a mental and a physical side, and we're going to try and distinguish fighters, beginners are basically mental, physical, action. Standing there thinking about it. I think his leg's open. Nope, he moved it. Oh, now his head's open. Nope, nope, nope. This is how this works. I think I'll throw this shot. No, wait a minute. They said not to throw that shot. They told me to do this one instead. Right? So it takes them a while to figure this out. So they're just kind of rolling along, trying anything they can. Now then, once we get up into the upper unbelteds, you might get a mental, you might get a physical, and they've started to link them together where sometimes things just happen. And they're as happy as a clam, right? They don't know why it happened, it just did. They suddenly threw that shot when that guy turned. Right? And I was like, this was great. He started to turn, the helmet opened up, and I hit him before I even knew it. It's like, wow, okay, this is really cool. I'm liking this idea. I bet I can make that happen. Oh, well, I guess I can't make that happen yet. Okay. So, now then. Top 2%. Notice the last letter changed. Reaction-based fighting. And they're all hooked together. They're not standing there thinking about what you're doing. They don't care what you do. They really couldn't care less what you want to try next. They're all relaxed. They're just kind of, maybe they're staring at your chest. They're staring over your left shoulder. To you, it's like, this person's not even, what did you do? What was that noise? Okay. Okay? And you're like, this person's not even in this fight. They're not even looking at me. Right? And all of a sudden you cross an imaginary line that you have no concept of, and this stick comes out of nowhere. And it's like, oh, I guess they are aware of the fight. And the difference in this, of course, again, some of the people that are going to fight every odd Sunday, they'll get into the middle of that. Unless you've got really excellent natural ability, you're probably never going to become a reactionary fighter, but who cares? You're out to have fun every odd Sunday. Does it mean you don't have to train? That's not what that means. It means that you have a different end goal than other people. All right? So, once you're here, and each of you gets to discern where you are in this block, and you start looking at this, these three types, how does that affect this? How does it affect your percentages? If you, significantly, exactly. Because if you're paying attention and your goal is to get here, then you're going to be working through training and practice to get that. Right? Now then, here's where it gets a little bit different, and this is the part of the class I like the most. Everybody that practiced single sword at least twice a week, raise your hand.
Single.
Hell workout?
Pardon me?
Does hell work count? Hell work, does that count?
Yes, it all counts. All right. Single sword, offhand, on hand twice a week.
Not twice.
Okay. For those of you that can't see, there's only about 6 people in the room that are practicing that. How important is that to a tournament fighter? Right? Even if you're going to largesse to your opponent. I don't know, is that common here?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're going to largesse to your opponent, you need to be practicing with them, especially if you're the competitor. For the most part, single sword is the one that's ignored the most. It's common for us in Artemisia to even have people that don't have the shield armor and ready to continue combat. They actually have to stop, go get a gauntlet, go get whatever, because they're not ready to continue. Okay? Which is one of the things that I don't allow with my guys. They have to be ready to drop that shield and continue fighting immediately to honor their opponent. Their opponent has gained that advantage right now. You need to honor them by being ready to fight right now. Not take 5 minutes to go get your armor and take a break or whatever. So, if all of this is true, which I think we're saying that we agree. Is there anybody that disagrees with this, by the way? It's okay to disagree with me. It really is. Okay? Yes?
I wanted to clarify one thing. Success rate versus population percentage. When you first said that, I was thinking, what shot is successful against 90% of the population? You're voicing that as what shots are successful against that top 2%. It's a different
look in that if you know that your lowering wrap to the backside is successful 90% of the time against the lower 20% of fighters, all of a sudden it's like, well, what are you getting out of that?
Okay.
It's like, okay, if I can't up that into the upper unbelted and into the knights, it's like, what's going on? It should be a clue to you for your training that something's not right. And when we get out on the floor, we'll start to explore how those blows change significantly against the different shield types, against a Florentine person and things like that, because that's where all of this analysis basically takes place. But a lot of people, they just fight. That's all they're doing. Yeah.
I don't actually disagree with anything that you've said so far, but the one minor point is that I actually do practice shots that I know the top 10% won't work on, but I want to get through to them as safely as possible. So there's a few combinations that I do that are fairly quick, and I know that most knights aren't going to fall for it, but I fear that unbelted fighter in a tournament. Especially the guy that I don't know, he's from a different area. I want to shut him down as fast as possible. Maybe that makes me a bad guy, but I want to end this fight.
Not at all.
Yeah, I want to end this fight.
But I'm going to ask you a question based on what you just said, and you said that you know that it's going to fail. It's got a high percentage chance of failing against the knights.
Yeah.
So what are you doing to train to take advantage of that then? Against the knights. Can you use it because they've seen it before and set up a third part of the combination, or throw the first part and then throw?
Yeah.
And are you working on that?
Yes.
Okay, so then you're still doing the same thing because you still want to get your success rate up
Yes.
in that top 2% of the population. So what you're doing is you say, I've got this right now, I need to add this to it or this to it to get at that top 2%. And it's not that you shouldn't practice stuff that is working all the way through, but it's honing it. All you're doing is you just need to keep doing it to keep it there.
Or I'll practice a shot that complements it.
Right. Anything like that where you're actually, when you're doing your training, you're training to do something else against the top 2%. You're trying to figure out, okay, based on fighting who? Fighting Gunnar, fighting Sven, fighting Thorn, Einar. I mean, what do they fight with? What shields do they use? What are their physical characteristics? From what I understand, Sven's really quick. Is that right?
Say that.
Is that a good description? So all of a sudden you have to start thinking about, okay, so what do I do against that? And in a training mode, we're going to talk about how to deal with speed. Speed can be denied. It really can. But you have to be doing the training and the practice to deny it. You really do. It's no into it. Okay? So, if we agree that training and practice are obviously hooked together in different ways, okay? Then we have to start talking about the roles. The trainer and the trainee. It's agreed upon by whomever. Okay. So, I'm the trainer and I'm about to give you a lesson. So one of the first things I have to do is I have to make sure you understand, number one, you're safe. Number two, there's no tricks. You know, this is straight up training. Okay? And I will explain what we're going to do. So I'm going to explain it. The trainee is going to listen. This is simple enough. Not everyone speaks and hears the same way. So, once you've explained it and the trainee listens, the trainee questions, the trainer listens. Because now we're trying to find out, did you really understand what I said? You know? Did I order a ham sandwich or a turkey on rye? And you'll be surprised at how many times when you go to do this with somebody, they're going to say something back to you that you know for a fact you didn't say. But it is what they heard. So, after I listen, I answer, trainee listens, and then ultimately the trainee has to perform and the trainer critiques. And you can go through that however long it takes to get whatever it is you're doing accomplished. Because you're going to run into some beginners that couldn't throw a flat snap with a 2x4 in front of their arm. Okay, where the sword would just go right across the 2x4 into somebody's helmet. They're not going to get it. So it's up to you as a trainer to figure out, how do I get through to this person? Right? 3 different types of learning. You understand it as soon as I said it. Okay, this is easy. I get this idea. The other one is, I show it to you, and boom, done. Third one is, you have to do it, otherwise you don't get it. As a trainer, you have to realize and be into it enough to work with the trainee to get the lesson across. What you are doing is you are the bearer of information. Your job is to deliver the message and make sure it was understood by the recipient. This is fairly straightforward. Except now we're talking about them using their mental and physical to do something you already know how to do. Right? So, one of the main things a trainer has to watch out for on their own part is frustration. It can be frustrating, right? After a while, you just relax into it and you realize, hey, this is going to take some while with this one. No two of the people I've ever trained are exactly alike. Some brought natural ability to it, some brought speed to it, some brought, they'd been in martial arts before, so they understood the combativeness of it. But no two have been alike. So, some of the rules for training. Safe. You can reinforce this by starting out with absolutely not a stitch of armor on. Because then it's obvious to the trainee that there's no way you can hit him. It's not combat. Now the deal here is that once you go from not wearing anything to wearing a helmet, it will change. Because the mental side has now put on its mask. Right? All the information coming in through the eyes is almost identical to combat because it's coming through that ocularium. You know, whether it's a 3/4 inch ocularium or a full open face grill, the perception is combat. I put this helmet on, I put the helmet on for one thing basically. Okay. So, as the trainer, you I call it verifying with the trainee, where are you? Did any concern just enter your head that you put your helmet on? And some of them will say, yeah, I sort of feel like we're fighting now. Okay, so you have to allay their fears and make it safe. One of the things you demand from the trainee is attention. They have to be willing to do this. If they're willing in the first 10 minutes and all of a sudden you realize that they're no longer there, it's time to ask them, you really want to do this? And you sometimes have to lay it down. If you were going to do this, you have to go through this whole set with me. It's not that I'm going to get you out there and show you how to throw this with a stick and we're all done. You want to do that, we can do that at practice. That's different. I'm just going to show you how to do it and you're all, off you go. So, we went over the D's before when I was here. What do you need to be successful? One of the D's.
Defense.
No. Dedication. Okay. Determination. What was the other one you guys mentioned? Desire.
Drive.
Drive. If you are not driven to accomplish this, especially if you're aiming for that one, okay, it's not going to happen. Education, motivation, dedication. I can educate you. I can partially motivate you. The last one, I have no control over. Right? And dedication and drive go together. If you're driven to it, and you can dedicate yourself to the practice, and you can dedicate yourself to the training, okay. But if you're telling yourself you're driven, but I'm not really feeling like going to practice this week. I didn't go last week either. Oh, well, maybe I'll go next week. Well, all of a sudden, you're not as driven as you thought you were. And that's something we run into. Little Bobby's sick. We have to go do this on that night. This happened at work and I'm working overtime. But even though all that's going on, if you're still dedicated to it because when you got home and it's 10 o'clock at night and you went out in the backyard and you spent a half an hour on that Pell, right, then you're still dedicated and you're still driven. You just don't have the time to dedicate to a real 2-hour, 3-hour practice twice a week. You just don't have it. Okay? So while it may take that person longer because little Bobby's sick or they had to work, they're still driven and they're still dedicated to doing something each day, they'll progress. It's just like anything else you do. It's just like with your job or any other sport you're involved in. Okay? No matter what it is, whether it's archery or anything like that, or pistol shooting, rifle shooting at long range, anything like that, you still have all of this stuff going on. Right? Because in those cases, you don't have an opponent per se, but you've got a target at 500 yards. That's your opponent. And your skill in your form of firing that weapon is what's going to make the difference. Okay? So, we've made it safe. We've got the trainee's attention. We've explained that to be successful, these are some of the things you need, and it's up to you as to how much you are going to give to that. I can't tell you how much you can give to that. I can educate you, I can partially motivate you, but if you're going to be dedicated, it's all on you. Okay? Now then, I'm going to revisit some of the stuff we went over in the first class because as trainers and trainees, which you're all going to be today, you need to understand some things. 5-on-5. We went over this the last time. Offense, defense. Number 1 on each side is range. You're not going to attempt an offense or a defensive movement without being in the appropriate range or having been. You're not just going to suddenly raise your shield because you think so. You're not going to throw a blow because you want to, but they're out of range. All right. On offense, what do we need second?
Target recognition.
There you go. You reading notes?
I just remember every.
Okay. Target recognition. I'm in the right range for targets A, B, C, and F. It's easy, right? I'll guarantee you, you do this every time you fight. Right? Every time you fight, this is going to happen. Now then, on defense, can we actually say target recognition? Shot recognition? Threat recognition? Area recognition? Whichever way you want to put it. Because the bad news is, Thorne, if you would, on guard. Where's this going? Oh, really? You think so? Yeah, not anymore. Now, where's that blow going?
Back of the head.
Back of the head. It's going to go right where I want it to. Which means if I suddenly do a body movement and I lift it up, he has to recognize that. If I come off his shield and I fade, right? But that first shot, it's like, where's that going? And if you predetermine something for me, I'll guarantee you I'm not going to put it there. It is not going to go where you think it is. Now we're back to success and percentages, right? So, thank you, Grace. So, the idea is that, where do we call it? Threat recognition, area recognition. Shot recognition is pushing it a little too far because, as I just showed you, you don't know that, right? So we could call it threat. I use area because what I'm going to try and do with my shield is cut off an area. I'm not going to go specifically and try and apply it to that exact blow. I'm going to try and cut off an area. Now the ideas in this are various, but when we start to move around, you're going to suddenly see, and how successful have you been with that now, Octa? Attacking the blade.
Still hard against a right-handed opponent.
Is it? Okay.
It's getting better.
We're going to go into a lot of things where you're going to be attacking the blade as it starts to come out, before it gets to its, what I call a commitment point. The commitment point was that point that I put that blade in. Is it going up? Is it going down? Is it going to cut across inside with a slight body movement into a fade or an attack on the offside? It's like, if you catch that blade at that moment, there you go. It's dead. Right? So you basically put your shield in that area. Okay, so all of a sudden, I'm on offense. I have a target. Blow selection. Okay, this is good. How many different shots do I have at this person's head? Right? Legs, arms. We all know what our targets are. However, based on the circumstance of the body position and everything else, all of a sudden, you're not standing straight in front of them, you're off at a diagonal now. So now, or they're attacking you, so they're not straight in front of you, so now they're coming at you. So which blow are you going to throw? What are you going to do? Right? And I guarantee you, if you're one of these two people, this is where stuff starts going wrong. Because if you're standing there thinking about it, it's like, oh, mama, and that little flag in your head is going, danger, Will Robinson, danger, right? And there's a lot of times where you'll actually respond to it, and sometimes you just back away. How prevalent is backing away in this kingdom? Opponent comes to engage, and everybody just goes, whoop, and they're all of a sudden, whoosh, we're not fighting anymore. I'm just playing, stay away from you. Is that prevalent here?
Yes, very much.
It's also very prevalent in Artemisia. When we were younger, it never happened. You didn't run away. Boy, once you were engaged, you stayed in range. And the fight continued until it was over. But that's the way we were trained. And now this backing up stuff, it's like, why do you want to regain the ground you just took? Right? And it just confuses the bejesus out of me. Because when somebody backs up, I stand there. I just wait. It's like, come here.
I can give you an answer.
You can?
Yeah. 'Cause
Good.
it wasn't my idea.
Oh, the backing up wasn't your
No,
idea?
if you close and you're coming at me very quickly, I back up. Because,
Why?
Well, it wasn't my idea to swing at that precise moment. It was your idea.
Maintain
And
range.
you
I didn't even
obviously
swing.
have a plan. No, but you're closing range for a reason.
Threatening.
Right.
Right.
And what else? And
Yeah,
what
you have a
else?
plan and I don't.
And what else am I also doing? I'm becoming into your range.
Oh, yeah, certainly.
So if you're not ready to take care of that, you're going to leave?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, definitely. I did.
Things have changed, my friend. All right, so now we've got blow selection. So on defense,
Sagan?
we obviously have a
Sagan?
defense selection.
Sagan,
Yeah.
could I add an
Of
added
course, go
thought
ahead.
to that
Of
whole
course.
subject there? You know, the whole idea of in this kingdom, there's a lot of people that charge and people back away and run away. What I like to use, just as an added thought for you people, is it looks like I'm backing away, but I'm actually staying in fighting range, knowing that you're attacking me. I'm getting you to slightly overreach, open something up as you charge,
Taking the
Right.
lead.
and so I'm not running away, but I'm using my footwork to move away from you, gaining an opening.
Exactly. And the other part to that is what is his grace just say he's taking advantage of on his opponent? Go back over there. Go back over there. What did I just do to you mentally? Right. He's leaving. He's leaving. Far out. He's leaving. Oh no, his stick stayed behind. I hate that when that happens. That bloody stick of his always hangs around. And why did that happen? Because you didn't pay attention to range. All right? He's leaving. He's leaving. Well, wait a minute. How far can he reach? Don't know. Right? One of my trainees in Artemisia is 6'5". You put a 36-inch stick in his hand, and all of a sudden, that's a whole lot of distance when he takes one big step and extends that weapon. Because that's how far his range is. So now you're trying to gauge this guy backing up. Uh-huh. Yeah, that ain't gonna happen. Okay, so defense selection. On defense, 3 different ways. Okay, we went over them last time. Octa? Yeah, you. Abba. Iba. Haba.
Take the easy one, block.
Take the easy, what's the other 2?
I would say move into the weapon or move
And-
into a position where
And the last one is?
Accept.
kill.
No, except the
Accept.
What my distinguished friend wanted to say, but his brain didn't report, okay? Block it, evade it, or accept it.
There you go.
Thank you.
I have a hard time-
I knew
I have a
you'd
hard
roll
time
them out for me
accepting
at the end. Okay.
What block?
Now,
There's no acceptance in your
the
mind.
obvious odd one
2 blocks and 1.
is, why would you accept it? Okay? Why would I accept that? I've got my legs sticking out like this, and I know you're headed right for it. Is this leg going to move? Because you're like this? Oh yeah. That leg's going to stay right there, and this leg's going to come forward, and I'm going to be swinging at the back of your helmet, and now while you're doing this, you're going to have to do this too. Right? And if you manage to get my leg, okay, that's fine, you know. My sweet spot on my stick just encumbered itself upon the back of your head. I've got no problem with this. This is a fair trade all day long. Right? Same thing. There's all kinds of traits that, again, we're going to go into in training. How many people have you watched, and when they're fighting, they do real well standing here, when they go to shoot, they do this? The shield drops. The shield goes like this. So if they're going to swing at my leg and they're going to leave their entire center open, am I going to bother blocking? No, I'm just going to kill them. But again, you have to be trained to react to that, not to stand there and think about it. Because speed kills. Right? Or it saves lives. If you're not actually quick enough to get in there and you start late, they've got more time to use their shield because their body movement is completed. And if you're swinging right now, they can actually reverse their movement and get to it. Okay? The last two, as I mentioned when I was here before, are the same, and they're the least practiced. Guaranteed. Delivery and recovery. Same thing. You go to shoot at a person's leg, that shield comes down and it comes 3/4 of the way back up. 7/8 of the way back up. It comes into play here instead of here. Right? They're not going back to their reset point. When you first line up and you do your shield and you've got that picture out of your ocularium, that should be where you come back to. If that's where you're saying, I'm ready to go now, then isn't that where you're going to be ready to go now each and every time? Is the shield out of place if it's back here, down here, over here, up here? Where'd the blade go? Right? And how many people start out like this, and as soon as they throw the first shot, they're now fighting like this? Where'd that come from? And no training. How often am I doing the same thing again and again and again and again? And if I'm doing the same thing again and again and again and again, is it good, bad, indifferent? You know? How many of you can honestly say that there is one blow that you get killed by a lot by varied opponents? Some slots open. I get killed a lot with this shot. I get my leg taken 90% of the time by this thing. All right? All of a sudden it's like, so what am I doing that's causing that? Again, you start visiting your percentages. And this is where it changes. What are the percentages against you? All of a sudden, it's different now. It's not success as I'm going against my opponent. It's what success my opponent's having against me. If the top 2% are constantly hitting you with the same thing, and it's successful, you need to be learning from it. You really do. It's like, ooh, heck, what is this about? Because we've already answered a lot of the questions about how all this works, but how much are you paying attention to asking the questions yourself? Having somebody write it on a board is real simple. All of this makes perfect sense. We do it all the time. 5-on-5 happens in every fight we're in. Every single one. Right? But when you go to train and practice, how much do you actually look at that when you start looking at your success and loss percentages? That's what we're going to go over today. All right, we've been at the board for quite a while now. Any questions about whatever I've put up there? Because it's imperative that you get this before we start on the floor.
I have a comment on the last thing you were talking about. A lot of people, when they get hit by a certain blow over and over again, they kind of try to fix it a little bit, but a lot of times they don't have the proper training to figure out what's going wrong.
Exactly.
Most of them figure out, well, the other guy is just too good. He's too fast, he's too accurate.
The
There's
infamous saying,
there's nothing much I can do about it.
just because it was Thorin. No. Just because it was Octa. No. No. 5-on-5. There's your answer. What'd you do wrong? What was it? Range? Did you assume mentally that it was a leg shot? Did you bite on the first part of a combination? Okay? What was it? And that's where you get to become the trainee in what was it. Now then, when you're at practice and even in combat, probably as long as it's not crown, because nobody tends to like to take a lot of time at crown, you have the trainer standing right there. What happened? You know? And if you want to keep a logbook or a notebook or whatever, that's great. The best thing you can use for training are right there. You cannot lie to a camera. You just can't do it. And I've had trainees over the years that have told me absolutely that I'm not doing that. Uh-huh. Okay, and you're not doing it against me, and you're not doing it against him, and you're not doing it against that guy, are you? No. Okay. So we go out, we train for 20 minutes, we get 20 minutes of film, boom, done. I am doing it. Okay. But now then, that's what you're going to find in the mental physical portion of this, is our onboard, you have trained your combat computers to fight in the way they fight right now. Trying to change it immediately will be impossible. Right? We can go through some training things, but I guarantee if you step out and you go to do combat, 3 or 4 fights into it, it's going to be, what? Right? And it's that way in almost any sport we do. Again, archery being my secondary sport, I use it a lot because it is all about form. Again, repetitive form, again and again and again. Right? But in this sport, you have all of this. In archery, I've just got a bow and arrow and a target. And that target's not going to try and attack me. But the idea of sport is still the same, form. We have to get our forms down to understand how to cover those as best we can. And learn when we don't. Or not learn if we're the person that fights every odd Sunday. Not a problem. Questions? Yes?
So I'm actually really inspired by this idea. Possibly keeping a logbook as to how I lose each fight. Now, if I'm at the end of practice trying to write down, let's say I pick a couple fights against, people that are going to challenge me, and I say, okay, I lost. I got stabbed in the face twice, I got legged twice, and I got wrapped 3 times. So that tells me that I've been, wrapped was the thing I got to worry about. Do you think, is that worthwhile doing, or how much do I have to sort of invest in why? Like the whole thing,
Very good.
Why did I get
Now
wrapped?
then, I want you to take that wrap that you just mentioned, and I want you to apply it to the 5-on-5. What was necessary for you to be hit by that wrap?
I was in close range.
Really? You don't think I can wrap the back of your leg at range?
Okay, I'm assuming it's a, yeah, you're right.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So you have to, which one is, which
Right.
one was it? I got hit in the ribs,
Right.
I got hit in the back of the leg, I got hit on the front, so yeah, so just try and remember to discern, where was I?
Okay.
Was it a wrap to the head? Where was he? Because you'll know that by this. Okay, he was right about,
Yeah.
right about here. Okay, how did I end up there? Did he attack?
Or did I attack?
Or did I attack? Okay, now where was my shield? Right?
Obviously not behind my head.
Obviously not. But again, discern.
Why? Yeah.
Why? Because being a right-handed fighter, if you come to me and I throw this first, and I immediately reload my blade this way, your shield's over there taking care of the first one, and I'm launching the second one.
So, with advice to me, would you spend more time, say, picking a couple fights and getting into it more, or just doing a log of a broader log?
I would go ahead and delineate what I'm doing for training, delineate what I did at practice, wins, losses, because even the wins are important, okay? But the losses are the part where we try and apply the 5 on each side, right? And especially if they're repetitive against the same fighter, or you are losing repetitive to the exact same blow to the exact same target. Because now it means you're doing the same thing against a bunch of people. For some reason, something's going on. Now, if they're all attacking you, then you're not keeping range. Right? If it's a mixture of the two, then you have to discern, okay, did they actually throw a setup shot for the wrap? Okay, because then it's like, okay, I'm falling prey to a combination. I'm not just getting killed by a wrap shot, I'm being killed by a combination, the first blow of which is just meant to blind me. It's the same thing if the person throws the molinet and the blade comes up, never contacts your shield, and they're stepping under again and reloading. All right? And all of a sudden, the worst one is, in confusion, is that happens and then they end up over here. Because that's where they knew they were going to head. And you die and you're